Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 9th June 2017. The first article, Getting Back on the Growth Track. This article analyzes the impact of demonetization. Our point is, demonetization did affect our growth process, but we cannot conclude the entire decrease in the growth is due to demonetization. So demonetization has worst affected the informal sectors where the cash flows are high. Now if you take construction sector, transport sector, hotel industry, there is a high cash flow. The growth in these sectors got affected. But there is a general pattern of reduction in growth which is happening from the last year itself. We need to see it from that particular dimension too. The biggest problem to Indian economy today is about capital formation and also the health of the banks. Gross fixed capital formation in India, it is decreasing. It means that the savings are not being converted into capital and capital is not transforming itself into investments. So the savings have to transform themselves into capital and this capital has to shift itself into an investment. So there is no demand for the private investments and capital formation itself is poor. So that is what is the concern for India. This is what is being expressed by Mr. Rangarajan. And Rangarajan has clearly stated that the increase in the health of the banks is critical for economic revival. And second is, social harmony plays a greater role in economic prospects. So India has to keep these in mind. Clouded coherence, it is about Shanghai Cooperation Organization. You all know that India has become a permanent member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the other member is Pakistan. How India's thinking is getting camouflaged, why India's thinking is not getting firmly grounded is explained by Suhasini Haidar over here. You know, Shanghai Cooperation Organization and if its charter is observed, it wants to create an alternate political and economic order and also it wants to take the military benefits from each other to the members. I can conclude that Shanghai Cooperation Organization has military objectives. That is the reason why it is seen as a counter force to the NATO. And Western societies and Western countries, they see Shanghai Cooperation Organization with very much of suspicion. And second is, China is a member and China and India have many other issues, especially with regard to NSG entry and Belt and Road Forum which India did not participate. And India has criticized the Belt and Road Initiative as creating debt burden on the countries. So that's why. So India-China relations are not very strong. And second is Pakistan-India relations we all know. So there is something called neighborhood friendliness, etc. or Shanghai Doctrine or Shanghai Cooperation Doctrine. So the members shall cooperate with each other. To what extent it worked between India and Pakistan is a major question. And second is, there is a cooperation and information sharing related to terrorism and special organization exists for this purpose that is called a regional terrorism anti-terror structure. So in this, how India and Pakistan will contribute and take benefit from it is a major question. So Shanghai Cooperation Organization has its own challenges, India becoming the member of it. Is it leading to shunning of the non-aligned movement? And during Obama era, India has moved close to West and India is trying to balance it in the changed global order by joining the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. That's what we have to see. Terror in Tehran. Now, ISIS has claimed responsibility for the recent terror act in Iran. And it has directed against the most important places in Iran, that is Iran Parliament, and also memory statues of Ayatollah Khamenei, who has founded the modern Iran. So in these circumstances, ISIS, it has its own challenges. It sees Iran as ideologically and also strategically a challenging nation. Ideologically because ISIS, it gains its strength from anti-Shiite or Shia sectarianism. So anti-Shia sectarianism, that's what is the point. So, and second is, Most of the fighters against the ISIS in Raqqa, Mosul, and in all these places, these are coming from the Iran. They are trained by the Iran. So there is another dimension to the fight. So there is a regional conflict and Cold War going on between Sunni-dominated Saudi Arabia, Shia-dominated Iran. So because of this in West Asia, there is no proper cooperation in fight against terrorism. Unless this regional conflict ends, we cannot expect good lessons or good cooperation among these countries to fight the terrorism. And presidential election is going to come. And 1969 presidential election is remarkable in Indian history. In Indira Gandhi, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, she has asked the MPs to vote on their conscience. It has led to the victory of Mr. V.V. Giri over Neelam Sanjeev Reddy. Neelam Sanjeev Reddy was the candidate of the establishment that is called syndicate in those days. And finally, Indira Gandhi's candidate has won. Mr. V.V. Giri has won the elections, and that has changed the history. And Congress establishment headed by Kamaraj, it went into oblivion. And Indira Gandhi has taken over the control over the residual Congress. This is how the history was shaped. Now, unless BJP brings in a candidate who is polarized, the chances are very much little for the opposition to get its candidate elected in presidential election. Now, let's go to the open-end page. Is the Paris Agreement necessary? Now, if you take the American role with regard to climate change talks, Mr. Clinton has signed the Kyoto Protocol. Mr. Bush has withdrew from the Kyoto Protocol. Obama has signed the Paris Climate Change Pact, but Mr. Trump has withdrew from the same. So if you observe from the beginning, the United States' stand on climate change is not consistent. And many of the people in US believes that the climate change or fight against climate change is questioning the American way of life. And second is, even if they support the climate change, their argument is to take forward the market mechanisms. Let the market efficiency, market innovation, market incentives, they deal with the climate change. Second is, they also try to make minimal commitments towards the climate change. So if you observe the US INDCs under Obama, he want to reduce it by 26 to 28% on 2005 levels by 2025. If you observe that with the European Union, which has committed 40% on the 1990 levels, so that commitment of US is always a doubtful proposition in this. And second thing is, instead of having the US and to disrupt the Paris climate change, it is better to move away from the US. And the Trump's narrative that climate change is taking away the US jobs and US it is getting an unfair treatment in comparison to India and China is also a not valid argument, because US is historically responsible for the accumulation of these greenhouse gases. And in this context, the world shall be collectively motivated to take forward the Paris Climate Change Pact. But the second largest emitter, historically without being participant to this, to what extent this 2-degree target can be achieved is questionable. That is what is being stated. Coming to the front page. So one thing is, from the next week onwards, the fuel prices are going to become dynamic. In response to the international prices, they are expected to change on a day-to-day basis. And the next is, two of the states, they breached 3% fiscal deficit target. Though the states have not been mentioned, RBI has stated that its role is just advisory in this particular matter. Next is, world page. If you come over here, the FBI director, Mr. Comey, he has testified before the US Senate Committee on Intelligence, and he stated that President of United States, Mr. Trump, has asked him to go slow or move away from a Russian investigation. That's what he tried to say over there. And then 1 million fund to bring in the BRICS media. So the BRICS is trying to develop an alternative narrative from the existing global media headed by CNN, etc. So a separate BRICS media is going to come in place. Now, I have given the notes, and these notes will be available to you at laix.in/civilsprep. You can go over there. So, you all know that Sosin Madam is most reputed for anthropology classes across country. So, some 10 years back, she used to teach in Wajiram and Ravi. Now, as she got married and also she has a kid, she is unable to travel across the country, and many of the students are asking me how to get her classes. So we have developed one online platform to give the classes of Sosin Madam, and it is available at laix.in/testprep. You can go over there and you can get the Sosin Madam's classes, but it is not free, it is paid. And second is, we are just providing a platform for her to make her classes available to the students throughout the length and breadth of the country. And I'm happy to announce that this year 323 marks, highest in anthropology, Mr. Muzammil is her student. And also 322 marks, Mr. Ashima Mittal is also her student. And in the paper one, highest mark is 155 to Dr. Pavan, who is also her student. So she is a reliable teacher with regard to anthropology is concerned across the country. And if you're willing, you can join to that particular course. Thank you very much. All the best.